Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to yet another video. Now, I've got a couple of minutes until I go on errands and deal with things that need to be dealt with, and I thought I could talk for a few minutes about something that has been on my mind for quite some time, for a long time, actually. Let me just briefly introduce the topic from my point of view, and then talk about other people for a little bit, and then come back to my own opinions. Now, for those of you who know my channel and who have been watching my videos for quite some time, you know that I am and always have been a voracious reader. I have always loved books and comic books, and more recently I delved into manga. But that being put aside, I also like to write a lot. I do like to write short stories. I have a novel in the process of writing, but what I mostly like to write is poetry. Now, that might sound a little bit pretentious, but I like poetry that people do not write anymore. And I write poetry that people don't read anymore that much. What is popular nowadays, as far as poetry goes, is poetry written in free verse. And poetry that, in my eyes and in my ears, doesn't have any real set and proper meter or form, right? So I basically call free verse, as mostly used today after the model of modernists and postmodernists. I call that prose on very short lines, or prose in short verses. Might contain an occasional rhyme, might contain an occasional resemblance of meter, of form, and of rhythm, but it most certainly isn't poetry that, was written and read 200 years ago, 100 years ago. Damn! 50 years ago, people still wrote proper poetry. You can find proper poetry these days, but not that much, at least not in my vicinity. Now, I come from the third biggest city or town in the Czech Republic, a small country in the heart of Europe, and the situation here is more or less the same. Poetry here is shit. And I've been told by my university teachers when I was still happily studying at my PhD program that my poetry is, as far as meter and form goes, perfect. Now, as far as the subject matter of what I write about is, let's say that I've always enjoyed and loved and studied into depth old Germanic literatures and old Germanic cultures, such as the old Anglo-Saxons, the old Scandinavians, the Icelanders, Vikings, Anglo-Saxons and shit, for those of you who don't know. So that is reflected in my poetry. I try to write alliterative poetry as it was written in the ages of the old English people, of Anglo-Saxons, after the model of, let's say, Beowulf, which is an old English epic poem, originally coming from Scandinavia, but was brought with the Germanic tribes to the British Isles when they were conquering the British Isles and drove out the Celtic population. But that isn't in nowadays, of course. I am a white man. I'm a blonde, blue-eyed, heterosexual, straight, right-wing leaning white man writing about old Germanic literatures and old Germanic history and old Germanic cultures. Do you think that I can publish these days? Do you think that any magazine, any journal, any publisher accepts or has so far accepted what what I submitted? No bloody way. People write about other things. The leftism and SJWs are ruling the publishing industry. And now I'm slowly getting to the other people that I wanted to talk about, and specifically to what I mostly talk about on this channel, and that is comic books and comic book industry. You can Google things that I'm, going to talk about. I don't have to like really leave any links in the description down below, people. You've got Google. It's all over the internet. You can find it in no time. So you know that there have been problems, there have been things happening in the comic book industry in the last couple of years concerning the cancel culture, concerning left-leaning SJWs ruling the entire comic book industry, and basically hiring people, for their color of skin or for their gender, for their sexuality, everything and anything but talent and skills, and anything that resemble hiring people on merit. The publishers are all about representation of the so-called oppressed groups, which is absolutely, I would say, artificial. When I look at the modern Western society, and not only Western society, but if I look at developed cultures, developed states in the 21st century, I do not see any public oppression of any group except for the white man. People are being hired specifically because they are of color or because they are women. That hasn't been happening before. This is the first time in history. People so far, or before, people were hired based on merit, or because they paid for it, money, or because they knew somebody, based on an acquaintance. I know somebody who knows the boss in a company, so you've got contacts, you'll get to places, or you are good, you will get the job. But never ever before it happened that people were hired specifically just because the companies or the publishers were afraid of this or that group. So, and that has also very much been reflected in the quality of the products, in this case of comic books. So you don't hire people on merit, you don't hire skilled, you don't hire talented artists, talented writers, talented pencilers and inkers and colorists and editors. You hire them because you are afraid of this group or another group, right? This results in not in bad products, because if you do not hire skilled people, good people, the product quality will go low, which means that people will not like the product. Oh boy. And what happens next? The sales go down. Well, that's the problem. But the publishers, they do not, they do realize it, but they do refuse to change their ways. And there have been many occasions lately of people who left, say, Marvel Comics lately, speaking about their experience there. Firstly, I'm not going to talk about the personal experiences with the people and the publishers or the political situation. I'm now only going to be talking about the financial situation for a bit. So you can Google it. It's all over Twitter. For instance, Richard C. Meyer or Comics Matter with your boy Zach on YouTube has recently uploaded a video in which he talked about talked about the fact that the writers and the artists are not being paid well in Marvel Comics company, that they are barely surviving month by month by month. And then he talked about another person who said that it is a bad idea to want to get into the comic book industry by self-publishing, right? or by making these like Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaigns, you know, that in this way you are alienating yourself from most of the publishers. Yes, you are. But if you look at the majority of the people that have done that lately, you see that there are many other advantages. For example, you make some actual money and some actual fans, because firstly, you are closer to them, being in direct contact with them, and secondly, if you are good, of course, you must be good. It's the same thing as it is with the thing I previously talked about, the hiring people on merit. If you produce a good product and then you set up a campaign on Indiegogo, for instance, and you want to sell the product, you sell and you make money because it's good. Take Ethan Van Sciver, for example, who has already made over $1 million selling his latest Cyberfrog comic book. And I think, yeah, it's like that. That all in all, for all his Cyberfrog comic books that he has published over the last 2 years, or a year, I think, or not even that, a couple of months, he has made more than $2 million. Not even DC or Marvel can boast about sales like these, making more than $1 million for a single title, right? So this happened because Ethan Van Sciver has openly said that he voted for Donald Trump. That's why he left DC Comics, because the SJWs ruling the comic book industry just will not let anybody connected with Comicsgate or anybody who is even slightly right-leaning work there. The publishers, all of the mainstream publishers, and that is counting Dark Horse, IDW, even Dynamite these days, unfortunately, right? Image. Freaking nobody will hire you. So what is there for you to, what's left then? If you want to continue publishing, if you want to continue creating, you have to self-publish. You have to set up a crowdfunding campaign like Ethan Van Sciver did. His friend Cecil, who was very recently bombered up by Gail Simone and the Dynamite comics. So they just tried, right? He tried to get some business done with Dynamite comics. One freaking hag came and messed it all up because she is a crazy person, like all the SJWs are. Richard Meyer, the formerly Diversity in Comics on YouTube, and now, as I said, Comics Matter with your boy Zach, he has done multiple titles over the past year on Indiegogo, and has made a lot of money, hundreds of thousands, if not close to $1 million as well. I myself have backed Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog and should receive the comic book soon, so I'm going to do an unboxing and a review very soon. So it's not bad. Self-publishing is actually, if you are not a corporate-friendly zombie, if you want to write your own thing, if you want to draw your own thing, if you want to be a free creator who just, who doesn't need to comply to the rules of the crazy SJWs, of the crazy lefties, you have to self-publish. So now getting back to myself again, I have to self-publish as well. I'm not as important. I'm not as, I don't think I'm as talented as Ethan Van Sciver or Richard Meyer or Cecil, but I like to write. I like to write my stuff. I like to write stuff that I care about. I like to write about my opinions. I like to write about my philosophy. I like to write about the old Germanic peoples. But I will not be published these days by anybody other than myself. And that is the same thing. It's a different field. It is a different kind of sport, writing comics and writing poetry. But it's basically, like it's under the umbrella term writing. Like, like you've got football and you've got hockey, right? So both these games are sport, but different kinds of sport, right? Now I have delved into a weird territory of metaphors. I'm going to get out of that. So yeah, the closing and finishing thoughts are: do support self-publishing people on Indiegogo, on Kickstarter and things like that, if they are talented and if you like the product, or if you like the prospect of the product. And do not condemn anybody or anything connected with self-publishing or connected with Comicsgate, because Comicsgate is not a hate group, as many SJWs say. They are just people who believe in free speech, free market, in creating whatever they want, in good manners and good conversation with the fans and with the readers. And I think that this is admirable, and this is what we should mainly focus on. And these are people that we should support, right? I do not really want to support modern comic books by Marvel or DC because I don't like them. They are not good quality products. I do buy a lot of old collected editions, a lot of old comic books from all the publishers because they are good comics. I'm not saying that only good comics were written in the 90s, in the 80s, in the early aughts, but there were most certainly more good comic books written back then than not. These days you've got one good comic book in 200 maybe. So I will rather support Ethan Van Sciver and his Cyberfrog because I like the book. I've read all the 90s Cyberfrogs, and I have read a lot of his modern creations, and I love it. It's old school comic book fun, and that is why I'm going to support him. And I'm not going to support SJWs. I'm sorry, because nobody of these SJWs would support me. I have to save my money to be able to self-publish my own poetry collection, because the leftists will not do it for me. So this is the true oppression, my friends. So please do support talent. That is all I'm going to say right now. Support talent. Right. And that would be all from me, my friends. What do you think about all this that I have said in the last 18 minutes? Right. Let me know in the comments down below. Well, that would be all from me, my friends. Do not forget to dislike this video if you don't like it, or like this video if you like it, and subscribe to this unimportant channel of an unimportant geek talking about unimportant things. That would be really all. See you soon, and bye.